Good morning. X Winterview back again in his car again on a Monday morning, bright and sunny on his way to work. He is way too cheerful for that. So, powering along in the 1.3 litre engine up a hill as I give another brief dialogue for my dear friend Annastacey. This morning's dialogue is on emptiness and fullness. Interesting ideas. What is this emptiness and fullness in the context of liberation and enlightenment? Why is the van behind me tailgating me when I'm doing the speed limit? All the mysteries of the universe. Okay. As we look around the world, as an imagined person, the world seems out there, over there somewhere, and I'm here, located in this body or as this body. There's a sense of my physical existence and centeredness within the appearance of the world. I can look to the objects seemingly around me and point to them and label them. I know what they are. I have definitions for them. If I go up and touch them, each object has its own texture and sensation in physicality. If I smell them, they have their own scent, maybe. If I taste them, if they're tasteable, then they have their own taste. And so, because of these apparently unique, distinguishing characteristics, coupled with this ability to label and independently define the edges of the object, it seems that indeed it's true, that that is a separate object, and I am the witness of that object as another object. So me here, and object or world over there. That's how it seems. It doesn't even seem like it's even worth questioning or debating that. That's, as far as the individual is concerned, that's the world. That's the baseline. That's the playing field, so to speak. And once I've established the baseline, then I can set about exploring other stuff in the world, like what's it all about, and what are the mysteries, and what's the meaning, and what's the purpose of me in this world. But what we're talking about here today is questioning the baseline assumptions. Even the baseline, even the starting point, is not quite as it seems. Because, as I've said in other dialogues, there is no independent, separate, individuated self that exists inside the body or as the body. There's nothing. There's an aware space is the best I can call it, if you even need to label it at all. If we look around the world, and this is just purely an intellectual exploration, which is fine. You can't do more than that, really. You look around the world, and let's assume now, let's make some presumptions or some assumptions that are slightly different to what we believe, and see what happens. Let's imagine, first of all, there is no self in this body, no separate individual person. Now that's extremely hard to mentally conceptualize or grasp, but let's just see if we can do our best with that. What must that mean, just on a level of logic, pure logic? What does it mean for the description of here and there? All of a sudden, without even a here, to say here, I am, or this is where I am, suddenly the here and there sense becomes a bit more, it becomes difficult to define. It's more diffuse. It's an everythingness, suddenly. There's no way of saying anything about geography, really. It's not even everythingness, really. It's just something. Maybe not even that. The next thing is if there is no person, agent, entity, etc. in the body, then the body has no causal agent. There's no self directing the body. There's nothing inside of it doing it. It's an empty vessel, you might say, just mechanically playing out its role. Now let's take that sense of emptiness, that there's nothing in here, and let's project it out onto the world now. There's nothing inside of the appearances of the world. It's all dream stuff suddenly. There's certainly no one else in the world, so these are just other bodies driving past in cars. There's no power in any of the appearance of the world now to cause anything else. It's all, imagine a hollowness to the appearance. Imagine a hollowness. Imagine an emptiness of form, if you can do that, such that, imagine looking at a tree. I've got lots of trees around me, and we like to think of trees or plants as they're growing, and we like to imagine in some ways that there's an intelligence that knows how to grow that tree or that plant. Let's remove that intelligence. Let's get rid of that sense of trying to remove the intelligence of the plant. Suddenly the appearance becomes even more mysterious. How is that plant doing anything without an intelligence? How is it even possible? Let's take out all theories of intelligence out of the appearance. This makes it even more mysterious. There's nothing in the appearance that knows anything. There's no guiding principle. There's no God or gods. There's no great energy somewhere, an intelligence energy, as some people like to call it, that is directing it all. Let's remove all conceptualizing about the appearance. And suddenly, it's all very strange. It's like a ghost world. Suddenly. A ghost world without location. There's no here or there in this ghost world. It's just something like a magnificent film set, perhaps. Exquisite detail of the film set, down to the tiniest little particle on the pavement, up to the well-coordinated movement of traffic and buses and pedestrians and dust blowing in the air. And it's as if there's an amazing amount of detail for a meaningless movie set somehow. That's the sense. That's just an intellectual exploration, but that's the sense of the emptiness of the world. The emptiness of the world has also been described as consciousness. And I'm not a big fan of this model, but I'll just touch on it briefly. That the world, the appearance of the world, is the very consciousness itself that is aware or awake to the world. The reason I don't like that model in particular is it still, I find for myself at least, creates a dual flip-flopping thing with the mind going consciousness here and consciousness over there and consciousness over there. It really still kind of divides it all up in a way. I don't know why this mind does that. Maybe yours doesn't. But the world itself, if we take away all imagined intelligences and substance from it, must simply be made of the awareness itself, the consciousness that is awake to the world, so to speak, itself. And even if we drop that term, we just drop all imaginings about all definitions, because definitions somehow suggest that we know something. If we drop all definitions of this hollow, empty world, and suddenly it's even more mysterious. It's another layer of mystery. You can't even say anything. And you're looking around, looking at it all happening, so to speak, and you don't know why or what or anything. It's incredible. Like a living artwork. Even that's just on an intellectual level. Now if we go from this emptiness the other way, let's go into the fullness. And the fullness is referring to something a little bit different rather than looking at the appearance itself. So we know that the appearance of the world, which we just explored, you could say is made up of apparent objects which are divided by our ability, so to speak, to conceptualize them as separate, imagine them as separate, and that includes, obviously, at the center, this imagined person, which completes the illusion totally. Going the other way into the actual sense of one's existence, the sense, this is sort of looking more, you would say, inward in a way. Just being very cautious with that metaphor, inwards and outwards. Looking inwards to our own experience. And I've said this before, there's a sense of existing that is, I'm here I am, I'm present and accounted for. Hand up. There's this like an undeniable here I am sense. That sense is often referred to as presence. And presence it's funny because it makes it sound like it's something other than you. But let's just roll with this as an intellectual exploration, that this presence is you. You exist as this presence. Your being is present, or presence is another way to phrase it. If we've taken the world and we've made it hollowed it out, removed all the imagined causal powers within the world, taken away all the definitions, taken even away the self, so it's all this one giant something, then all we're left with is the one giant something and this presence. This feeling of fullness that's undeniable. These are definitions, and I'm trying to describe something, and I've borrowed these definitions from other good talkers or speakers on this subject because I can't think of better words to use than this. I mean, I end up making these conglomerate words, here I amness, which I don't know if that's better, but presence, we'll say. And we know that this presence is somehow awake, but let's not even go into the awakeness, because that's another layer of conceptualizing that this is awake. I just want to stick with this presence. As we look around the world now, with just this here I amness, this presence, this being, the world that used to be full of imagined stuff, with imagined causal agents and powers and reasons for this causing a reason for that, all that stuff gone, that fullness that I am, that presence that I am, without location, exists everywhere equally, suddenly. It's not that it's here, local to the body, although it feels like that for a lot of people. That fullness is somehow everywhere at the same time. That presence is everywhere. It's in and as the appearance. Suddenly. Oh, trancing out again. Gotta be careful when I talk about this stuff first thing on a Monday morning before a coffee. The idea of here and there, which we annihilated in the earlier part of this dialogue, is it removes the sense of needing everything to occur in reference to something else. Now this is just an intellectual exploration, and it might be hard to even follow along with this exploration, especially if you're sitting in a small space. It's maybe even harder. I have wide open views to a horizon and many miles in the distance with mountains and trees and all this as I drive. And this sense is a little bit more sort of magnificent in a way in this outdoor location, because it brings it all. There's a totality to existence that's stunning in a way, that before in the old days it was me here, mountains over there, and now it's just a totality of fullness, but all at the same time an emptiness, that I'm not imbuing stuff onto the projection that is conceptual. I'm not putting powers and stuff that I imagine, into that appearance. Now that's fine to conceptualize, fullness and emptiness, and in some ways it starts to suggest that the appearance as we imagine it is somehow wrong in a way. And I wanted just to finish off with a quick word on that as we explore these ideas, you can get a sense that you're somehow possibly deluded or imagining things that are incorrect. But that's not what's being said at all. Just to clarify that, this is the world unfolds in a mysterious way for sure, but it includes the conceptualizing, and it includes the mentalizations and includes the imaginings of powers and processes, and that's all totally normal, totally natural. There's no need to hate the world or feel like you're seeing a lie. There's no need to get into that game, because that implies that something is wrong and that we're trying to see something correct or correctly. When you get into that idea, you can become quite depressed or a bit anxious that you're not seeing things the right way and you need to change in order to see things the right way. This is just an intellectual exploration to hopefully, I don't even know if there's a goal, because who would that goal apply to? It's not as if I'm telling people about reality or the truth of the world, etc. This is a talk that's happening in space. Isn't that weird? From no one to no one. It's just happening. It's just another part of the appearance of the world. And you could even go into the emptiness and fullness of this. It's like there's no one here giving this talk. It's totally empty. And it's not going to cause anything. This talk won't cause something in the appearance to change or to shift. That's how empty the words are. These words are totally empty, totally powerless. If you put a person here and a person listening and a belief that these words will change you somehow, then you're imbuing the appearance with power. These words are special, maybe, and you're a seeker who needs to hear these special words, so to speak. See how the imagined world starts to fire up with all sorts of whimsical, fantastical causes and effects, etc. very quickly as well. I think it's wonderful. Anyway, this is all I wanted to say on Emptiness and Fullness. Oh God, I need a coffee. Almost at work. Gonna make it. Thanks for listening. Comments are welcome.